Hi everyone, my name is Simon. I'm the founder of Horoma Studio, and today I'm sharing with you this new rendering teardown. So what we have here is a really nice night rendering of this sort of office tower, and maybe some sort of more of cultural thing happening here. Whatever. It's really like, I really like all the colors. It's really dynamic and colorful, kind of really urban vibe, and it's pretty much quite exciting to work on this one. So a couple of things I would do. There's something right from the start I think that could be interesting to do, is to actually change the composition a little bit, or at least the framing. What I mean by that is that I would do something like this, I guess. Why am I doing this? Is that because it's like when you're dealing with some sort of quite vertical architecture, in order to make it look more like slender and like powerful and light, it's quite interesting to have like a bit of sky above it, because it will enhance the effect. Basically what I mean by that is that when you're looking at the sort of like this, and then it goes like that, and if you're cropped too early, it's like not really, there's no like proper motion, like upward. So I think it would be better to have this like that. Also, it's sort of really emphasize how slender the actual tower is. So that's a good thing. Another thing I would sort of work with, I think, is the contrast. There's something like, if you look at it in black and white, it's sort of balanced. I mean, it's okay. It's just, I think there's no, although I'm not really sure like that you all the time have to put emphasis on your building, it's still better to make it sort of pop out a little bit from the rest of the area. So what you can do to do that is to basically increase the contrast, like here, increase the contrast on the overall image. But this is not really working. I mean, like, it's more dramatic, but it's not really making this more visible. So what you need to do is to increase the contrast on your building, then decrease it in the background. And what you can actually do is to really lower the contrast in the background. So I'm like increasing the mid-grays here, so that this is a little bit light up and like more like less contrast. So that way, what we just created is that it's sort of emphasizing this. What we can do as well is to use this burn and dodge tool, because like the dodge tool is really one of the most efficient way of creating, like emphasizing your artificial lighting. Because as you can see, like if we're using it in, say, this area, you can sort of make it a little bit like some sort of glare, which is really nice. And that way you can emphasize some part without completely degrading the rest of the image. So there might actually be a little bit too much here, but that's alright. So something like this is actually okay. So like you can see, with just a couple of things, we just went from this to this, which I think is quite good. The only thing I might be reconsidering is how dark the sky is. So because like really we're not rereading anymore the volumetry of the building. So what you might want to try, but I cannot really do it on this file, but is to maybe change the sky and has something that is kind of lighter here. What I mean by that is that maybe you want to have like something, it's not going to look good, but still just so that you get the idea, to maybe have something more like this. Do I have some clouds here? Yep. something, well, I'm gonna say really subtle, even though this is not here, but I guess you get the idea. That way you can sort of read the geometry properly, and I think would be a little bit better. So maybe not that, but I guess see the difference. So something that could be interesting. So yeah, and basically one way to do like this sort of contrast thing is to use the Z depth pass in your like renderer. So that way you could just have to use it, invert it, and put it in your level adjustment layer, and it will automatically enhance the foreground and decrease the contrast in the background. Another thing we can have a look at is the saturation. There's it's actually sorry, it's actually pretty nice, but there's like, in the same way that you can increase the visibility of a building by using contrast, you can also use it increase it by using saturation, and also it'll make more sense in terms of realism. And that's the reason why is basically artificial lights are almost always going to be more saturated than the natural light. So if we look at what's going on here, we can see that these facades are lit up by the sun in the background. So the thing is, this part, even though it's like in daylight, cannot be more saturated than what's actually happening here and here, which is like artificial lights. So what you can do is decrease the saturation using a adjustment layer here. So you just decrease it a little bit, maybe not that much, but something like that. And also in doing the counterpart by increasing the sorry, the saturation here. So that way you can see the difference is that what we just did is sort of reverting and having like increasing saturations here and decreasing saturations here. So that way we're shifting the point of interest from here to here. So it's kind of interesting because you're like, in terms of perspective, you're creating a point of focus here, whereas in terms of saturation and contrast, you're shifting the view to the building, which is actually what we're trying to do. So that's a good thing. So I guess that's pretty much it. There's maybe a couple of other things that could be dealt with. The first one would be the blur effects. I know it's something that I oftentimes see when you have like cars and like driving by. It's a cool effect, like it's nicely done here, but it's just, you have to be careful as to why this effect happens. So in terms of graphic style, it's really interesting. It's sort of like urban vibe and a really vivid idea. But the thing is, if this is blurred, it means that you have like a long aperture, which means everything in motion should be blurred. So this guy should actually be blurred, this car should also be blurred, so is this car, so is this guy's. So be a little bit careful with that. Another really tiny detail, but that can change a lot of things, is that when you insert cars and you don't see the driver, just be careful with that. So you can always add like some yay. It will actually change and it can just be like a silhouette. It doesn't have to be complicated, but still it will like add a little bit of detail that can change quite a bit of how real the like the perception you have of the image. I was trying this a little bit before. It's like a usual thing you can try when you want to enhance just a little bit your image. Is that just you do like clone stamp, no, not what's the word, like a copy of the whole image, and you just set it to overlay, and then you just decrease the opacity, otherwise it's weird. But it sort of increases like the saturations and contrast and makes it like a little bit more dynamic. So it's something you can try. It's not always working, but you can still try it. And the final thing I'm going to talk about, which is like a really tiny detail, but although I'm not really necessarily against flares, you have to use it really in a really subtle way. It's kind of subtle here, I have to admit, but still I would blur it a little bit more. And the thing is, like, I think flares are interesting when they're like almost invisible but still are there. So it's something you can try to play with, but I think it has to be a little bit less visible. But beside that, I think that the overall image is really good, and the tiny changes we've made, I think, really increase like the perception of the image. So you see, we'll switch from this to this, so it's like even more dramatic, and we're still like keeping a more sort of realistic feeling. So yeah. Well, hopefully you've learned some interesting tips and tricks in this video, and yeah, just don't hesitate to comment and leave a message. That would be really cool to have some feedback as well. So yeah, thanks guys, see you later.
Tonight,